All right, so we want to continue with our savings case of $1,000 at 2%. I entered some things here into a spreadsheet, so you could bring up Excel, OpenOffice, or this is LibreOffice. They all, at least as far as this part of the spreadsheet, they're all going to look the same and use the same formulas. The Google Docs stuff, their spreadsheet, that will also work. And so any of those will have these same formulas that we'll see here in a moment. Now I went ahead and entered the kinds of things we were dealing with before up here in this first row, and I centered them just to make them look a little nicer. And I did that to save a little time, because this is the second time I'm making this video. The first time it was just way too long, and so I'm trying to speed it up a little bit. And so some things you may have to stop and go back on the video to really get a good look at them. But so for period, remember we had done, I think, period 0. We had done period 1 and period 2, and that's as far as we got. Now, I could just keep typing numbers, but I do want to show you some things to make our life just a little bit easier. So if you have the numbers 1 and 2 and you highlight those like that, and grab down here in the bottom right corner, see how the mouse changes? Goes from a pointer to a cross. I think in Excel it goes from a big white cross when you're out here in the middle to a skinny black cross when you're over here on this corner. But if I click it and hold it and drag down, I can see that how far I'm dragging down, and it says I'm at a 12. I'm going to stop there for 12 periods. And now balance, remember we started with $1,000. Okay, so there it just says 1,000. I'm going to change it to a dollar setting here now. So you can do that through format. You can look up here in the top ribbon. Every spreadsheet will have different stuff in the ribbon up here, and you can probably find a dollar sign somewhere, and I click that and dollar. Now I could always right click and go to format cells. Here's numbers. See, it says currency, and I've got all kinds of things to choose from. Again, all spreadsheets are going to let you do something like that with a right click. So there's my balance, $1,000. Now my interest is my balance times my interest rate. So I put that formula up here so I could remember what's going on. Now I need a rate. Oh, this is for later, so I'm going to delete that for now. Later, a different video. So we have these 4 things that we were dealing with. So our interest rate, remember, was 2% or 0.02. So I hit that. Now again, I could leave it as 0.02, or I can change the format to a percent. Oops, wrong place. There we go, percent. And now it says 2%. And so that, again, just be careful with formats that you see what the heck it is you're doing. And so now we need to calculate our interest rate times our balance. And so to do a formula in a spreadsheet, I pretty much do it like I'm reading up here, except this interest part, the thing that I'm getting, well, really these are all about cell references. So I'm putting something in cell C2, and it knows that. It knows I'm putting it in cell C2, so I don't need to say that. I just start with the equals part. So equals, now the balance, my current balance is here. You don't type in 1,000, never. Okay, that number is right there. What you want is that address where it is. Where do you get the balance? You get it here in column B, row 2. So I could type a B2, but I suggest click on the cell you need. And so then you aren't thinking about these formulas as, oh, it's a B2. Why a B2? Why not a B6? Right? You want to think of the formulas as just going to a location. And really what this is saying, and the way you should think about it is, I'm saying equals, and take the value in the cell to the left. And you can see how it highlighted the cell. It's the cell to the left. Don't worry about B2, worry about the cell to the left, because that's where the value is. And then times, so I do a times, that's an asterisk, and then times the interest rate. Well, where do I get the interest rate? Oh, that's right here, the cell to the right. And there I click on it. It makes that cell D2, column D, row 2, and then I can hit enter, and there's that $20 we had. And now my new balance, so that was in period 0, I started my savings with $1,000. During period 0, it earned interest, so at the beginning of period 1, when things get going, I now have that balance plus that $20. So I can write that in here, equals, well, it was my previous balance plus the interest. And so I click there, and see what we see here is this is the cell above plus the cell above to the right. Okay, so just diagonally to the right. And I hit enter, and there's our $1,020. If I double click on this cell, then it's ready to edit. So if you double click and get the formula, don't start clicking other places because it'll add cells. So notice if I click here, all of a sudden it put a B4 in there. I don't want a B4 in there. Just hit, if you're in here, just hit enter. So now we have this $1,000, that $20, we added them together. But again, notice I grabbed the amount just above me because that was the previous balance. And here I calculated the interest for that period, and I got the $20. And so that's how I got my 1,020. Now I need to calculate interest again. Well, we know that's equal to this amount here to the left times this amount here in D2. And so I click on those and I hit enter, and there's the 2040 we had. And now here's a neat thing about spreadsheets is if I copy this, and one way to copy is I just click on it, grab here again, and pull down. If I copy this, notice it is that answer we got in the previous video where we were just looking at this by hand. It was that 2040 plus the $1,020. And now how did that happen? Well, if you double click on this, notice the formula is still looking at the previous cell above and the cell to the upper right corner. Okay, so it's doing exactly what the last one did. So notice that, here's the formula, and it's looking at these two cells right above the formula. Well, if I double click here, here's the formula. It's using these two cells right above the formula. And so if I copied this down further by just pulling like this, now you could also do a copy and then, well, I copied two cells there. So let me copy, and I could do a paste. Yes, I want to put it in there. Now, notice it didn't update anything. Well, why not? Well, because I didn't have anything here to add to it. Well, so I need to add something here. And I could try that same idea. Oh, well, that copy worked great before. I could pull this down, and oh, well, that didn't work. Obviously, I should get more than $0. So what happened? Well, here, notice it looked here to the left. It took the balance there, which is what it was supposed to do. It looked to the left, times this cell. Well, there's nothing in there, so it said it was 0. Okay, that's a problem, and that's the thing with copying in spreadsheets. Spreadsheets assume you want to have these numbers just follow you down and go like that, and so it's updating because I went down a row. It went down a row here. The previous line was a D2. See, so that's a D2 that I had typed, and so when we go down to this line, by copying, it's a D3. Okay, well, so we don't want that in this case, and if I have to keep typing this D2 every time, it really hasn't saved me much work. And so spreadsheets have a way of taking care of that. Whoops, see there, I clicked on something before I got out. Spreadsheets have a way of taking care of that. If you don't want any of either the letters or the numbers to change, so the letters for columns or the numbers for rows, if you don't want those to change, you have to put a $sign in front of them. So there, I don't want that to change. Everything else could change. Now the D, because I'm pulling down in this column, it's not going to change. If I wanted to make sure, I could put a $sign in front of the D as well. But I don't want that 2 for the D2 to change. I always want it to look right there at D2. So I hit enter. And now if I copy those down like that, notice that fixed itself. Now that's the 2081 that we should get. And it updated here to the 106121. And now to show you something else you can do, if I instead of pulling something down like this, if I want to copy it down to the 12, I can do that actually by getting there, and instead of dragging it down, just double click on that corner and it put everything down. Now of course those are the wrong answer because I haven't updated this one, but I can do the same thing there and those update. Now this isn't real in a way because I'm just looking at that balance made from the interest and the previous balance there. So we have this number. So if I do my simple interest, I can calculate it very, very quickly this way with the spreadsheet. If I double click on any of these, you see they're looking at the right places, and you should concentrate on where they're looking, not the B7 or C7 or something like that. You know, look at the picture. That is just so much more important in a spreadsheet as to what's going on, and then that makes the formula make sense because I'm looking here at the previous balance, the C7, I'm looking here at the interest that I got, and we know that the updated balance is just the previous balance plus the interest that I was given. And so I have that, and so that's how we do this simple compounding that we have if we just deposit an amount of money in the bank and let it grow with the interest rate over some number of interest periods. Okay, so that's it for this video. Hopefully it's not so long this time.